two, one.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And we got a lot to talk about today. Now, when I told you yesterday that there's trouble in the Middle East, you probably figured it's a 24-hour bug that'll be gone soon enough, right? But here we are, a full day later, and you'll never believe this. There's tension between Israel and the Palestinians. I thought this thing was going to be just, I thought coronavirus was just going to be around for a couple months or something. I thought the lockdown was going to be, 14 days? Anyway, looks like the Middle East problems are here to stay, specifically Israel versus the Palestinian. It's unclear to me, the communities in East Jerusalem, which leads to tension between the Gaza Strips, governance, and Israel. There's a lot I'd like to learn about this right now. Now, we have a special guest today who almost couldn't make it because of rocket fires. So please welcome, while he's able to join us, good God, it's Boaz Arad.
Hi, guys. Good evening, everybody, or good morning, wherever you are. Today, some time ago, we started to get some more barrage of rockets from Gaza, mainly on the southern part of Israel and till the outskirts of Tel Aviv, Rishon LeZion. And just in general, when I'm looking on the let's say the civil command or the home front command alerts, I can see that within the last 24 hours, we got 1,838 alerts and about 1,200 or more rockets came over from Gaza. So this is the situation. And this is some kind of a crazy situation that we tend to forget, but we live with it. I don't know if I can share the screen just for a minute, okay? But I'll show you something. One moment. Yeah, this is a PowerPoint. It just showed the number of rockets that we got from Gaza since 2004. And you can see here around 2014, more than 3,000 in one of the conflicts. So now we are about 1,000 to 2,000. It's not the top, but it seems that we got used to it. However, when we'll get to the number of casualties from a Palestinian terror act, we see that they're going down. And this is maybe the explanatory graph to explain the strange behavior in Israel, because we kept defending ourselves to the level that we decided that we can push forward the retaliation that we need to retaliate. And the situation is that after more than 1,000 rockets, there is few wounded people, something that doesn't consider to be, let's say, strategic damage. And the public opinion is very anxious about it. They don't like to see the Hamas playing with us whenever they feel like it, or whenever they suit them politically in order to get favor from Iran or for other political interests. However, the cost of retaliating is something that is balanced very pragmatically, because we have a situation here. We have a situation that there is instability within the Palestinian Authority. Mahmoud Abbas postponed the election, and Hamas that like to stretch their muscles, trying to show that they have a voice and they are the real leaders and protectors of the Palestinians. We have a situation of holy days of the Ramadan and the holidays that Arabs celebrate on the mountain, on the Holy Mountain in Jerusalem, and it's joined together with Jerusalem Day, which is a very patriotic, nationalistic Israeli day. And Hamas actually attack Jerusalem with missiles in order to show the presence. And we have an unstable political situation in Israel. And
You're lagging, looks like. Is that right, Jonathan? He's frozen in time?
I believe so. Yeah, we've lost Boaz, but we're getting on the super chat, Ruck, a lot of support for Boaz. Christopher says love, support, and strength to Israelis. Hugh James says one of the best things Trump did was Middle East peace. I don't know how much Middle East peace we're seeing right now, considering that Israel is literally under attack. I'm sure you saw, Rucka, some of those images above Tel Aviv. I mean, it looked like what I remember Baghdad being on the eve of that war.
He's back.
Boaz, do we have you back?
Well, sort of. Now he's a still image.
Okay, I'm
back.
still here. Still here. I hope that you can hear me.
We can hear you. You want to finish your thought? Do you remember what you were saying?
Yeah. So I think that everybody will declare a false victory for public internal public consumption, and this will be the end of this round till the next round. And basically, we forgot what victory means and why does it important. And maybe it's a good time to remind everybody John Lewis, the late John Lewis book, Nothing Less Than Victory. You got it there? I got it in my one.
Yeah, no, I have
not
it
within
somewhere.
arm's reach. Oh, Jonathan has it somewhere, but I'm afraid if he breathes towards those stack of books, it'll be a mess.
Boaz has it. It's a wonderful book.
There it is.
Well,
Nothing
Boaz,
less
for
than
those who haven't read it, help them understand what you're kind of getting at here. What is there to learn from John's book that could apply to Israel right now, which is under attack?
Yeah, actually, there is a famous photograph of Benjamin Netanyahu holding this book in the Israeli parliament. And we all know he read it, but basically John Lewis is bringing the lessons from past wars and present the fact that not only that it's possible to win a war, it's also imperative that you win a war in order to get peace. And usually there is a saying, especially within the left circles, that you need to speak with your enemies. But basically what we can learn from John books, that you can speak with them only after they've been acknowledged that they've been defeated. And this is the lesson that it's very difficult for us to put to action. And part of it is because we are within an international system that doesn't acknowledge the moral right of Israel to defend itself, and doesn't see that we are not on the same equal moral stage, basically, and tend to believe that if you are weak, as the Palestinians are, and if you put your citizens in the front of the fire and get them killed, then it's make you the underdog and by that the just part. And the Twitter and the social media are full with it, with picture of so-called innocent people that are hurt, either from this conflict or from other conflict. It doesn't matter. They just put everything on the Twitter and showing Israel as an apartheid, unjust, very rough bully that terrorized the surrounding. And the fact that Israel protects her citizens and we don't have many casualties put us immediately on the guilty side in a way. So
yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. Robert Nasser, thanks for the super chat. He's watching from the States, Boaz. He says the situation is intolerable, yet a superior culture leading to advanced defense technology made it possible to tolerate, for better and worse. Seems to be getting at the fact that, Israel is superior technologically and could end the war, win the war if it wanted to, but yet it does not. This goes on year after year after year, decade after decade.
Exactly. I mean, there is the concept that we cannot win this war because we will not be able to bear the consequences of actually flattening Gaza or the consequences of winning a war. on the world stage. And this is part of the philosophy that actually rule the world today. And the fact that I don't sure that we have friends in the White House to protect us against international retaliation.
Also, Mary Aline, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for the support, guys. We're doing our best to try and get a rational perspective on the issues of the day here on the show. So there's so many questions I have, like so many aspects by which to approach this that I want to understand better. So people say that that Israel is evicting people from, Arabs from their homes in East Jerusalem, which then led to Arabs to, Palestinians to start throwing rocks and to initiate violence, which then led the Israelis to storm the mosque and get people out, which led Hamas to start firing rockets. They make this about property rights. Now, obviously, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip have zero understanding of property or respect for it. So obviously, that's not their primary motivation. However, if Israel is unjustly taking homes away from people in East Jerusalem, we want to know about that, and we want to, take that into account. Also, thank you, Marilyn, for the super chat saying Israel has every right to crush the Palestinians with the purpose of ending the war decisively, I would add. But Boaz, can you comment on what I've heard about evictions and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, Israel is a mixed economy. So it's not a pure capitalist property right honoring state like almost any other state in the world. But if we'll put Israel on a scale of respecting human right and property right, it's way, way, way above any respect to this right within the Palestinian society and authority and so on. The Palestinian authority actually torture and killing people who sold their land or house to Jews. And this is something unacceptable and unheard of. You couldn't see something like that, neighbors killing one of the neighbors that sold his house to somebody you don't like. It's something that within the Palestinians, it's all, it's a collectivist notion that protects the so-called the nation right, not the individual right. Now, of course, there is a lot of use of this argument, and there is some truth to it, because Israel didn't made the exact definition when during 48 and 67 about protecting property rights of every Arab that fled away from the war or was terrorized by the war or was terrorized by the neighbors and so on. So, and I think we could do better, but anyway, we do much better than in any other circumstances. Now,
hey, Boaz, I'll just jump in just briefly. Just the fact, Israel is portrayed as the aggressor when this is a retaliatory action. And it just makes me think as an American, if Canada or people in Canada were lobbing in bombs, fire, missiles, we say, government, go fix this, go take care of them, go wipe this threat out.
Yeah, I don't think that Mexico, that may have a claim to Texas, if they will launch a missile war and hit Washington and Austin and Dallas with hundreds of rockets, I don't think that everybody will be quiet about it and say how we will settle it out, and the White House we call to both sides need their security,
exactly,
and so on. So I don't think that anybody in the world will see it as an equal and parallel way. But since Israel is kind of Godscape in a way and needs to show higher so-called moral standards, we need
just to interject a little objectivism in here, but isn't that, Rucka, the purpose of government? We always say purpose is to protect your rights. So if another people or countries lobbing weapons, missiles at you, that's government's role? Step in there and protect you.
Yeah, of course. That's the part that most people aren't aren't aware of. They're not thinking in those terms. I mean, same with America dealing with aggressors, and with any other basically free country dealing with aggressors. But the argument people keep making is that, well, Israel, they're not just a free country minding their own business. They keep expanding. That's what I'm hearing. They're expanding. They keep on taking a little bit of the West Bank, a little bit of this.
Israel is shrinking, if you want to look on it from this perspective. We gave away back Sinai that was captured from Egypt after Egyptian aggression without any provocation since 48, actually in 48, when Israel was established. We suffered an invasion from Egypt, Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, wherever you want, and some forces from Yemen and other countries as well joined the party to wipe out Israel. And they didn't succeed. Okay, so they lost some land, and Egypt didn't succeed in 67 and 73, and the same with the Syrian, and Jordan actually lost the West Bank in 67. It was Jordanian territory, even though it was supposed to be part of the Jewish homeland according to the Balfour Declaration. And the Jordanian decided to abdicate and give it away. And basically, the Jordanian understand that the Palestinians in the West Bank are hot potato, and they prefer not to keep their sovereignty there. And the same thing happened with Gaza when Menachem Begin negotiated the peace treaty with Egypt, with Anwar Sadat. Actually, Anwar Sadat made a very strong statement that he will not give up any grain of land, of Egyptian land, and he will not give anything less than getting everything back. But one thing he didn't get back: Gaza was under Egyptian rule till the 50s, and till Israel occupied Sinai, Gaza was an Egyptian territory. But the Egyptians decide not to take the Palestinians in Gaza back and nationalize them as they should have been as Egyptian. And so we left out with a group of Palestinians in Gaza and a group of Palestinians in the West Bank. This had to be Jordanian, the other one used to be Egyptian, and nobody want them, and actually they've been left alone by the Arab world in order, and now they're playing some kind of game, the Hamas with Iran and the more radical state within the Arab world, and the West Bank is trying to establish some kind of national identity.
Look, so I agree with that. I understand, I think, everything you're saying. And, you know, in principle, I would be fine with Israel literally annexing Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and every other country that ever started a war with them. I'm being dramatic. My point being, yeah. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the Palestinians versus Israel. So people say Israel keeps on taking a little bit more of the West Bank. They keep on expanding their border. So that, people say, is it keeps reigniting the conflict. So then they say Israel can't just say, hey, leave us alone, we want to be free. The people answer, no, Israel is taking bits and pieces of Palestinian areas. So how would you respond to that?
Yeah, basically there was all kind of offers on the table to draw a line around the central settlements, the Israeli settlements within the West Bank, and start build yourself. Basically, if you're looking for peace and prosperity, 1 or less kilometer of ground will not be the essential issue. I mean, you can have a rich Hong Kong even with half of the size of the West Bank, if you are willing to work and prosper, and this is what you look for. But if basically you have a long-term plan to keep on the animosity and ignite ongoing conflict, like the Hezbollah in Lebanon, for example, doing. They keep saying that we need to fix the border somewhere, something being taken from them. And there will be no end to it. Doesn't matter how much you're gonna give.
And that's what Rucka, you started by saying, this is a property rights issue. And I don't know if it is. I mean, I know they say from the river to the sea, meaning that they want all of Israel, but isn't it what they really want is not, Boaz, as you said, the land. They want to destroy the Jewish people. They want to destroy the state of Israel writ large.
Yeah, I mean, it's the situation is that at least there is a hardcore within the Palestinians. I don't think all of the Palestinians are of the same type, and not all of the Israeli Arab, which most of them are already getting closer to the Israelis in their way, standard of living and way of life and so on. But there is a core of radicals that for them, they will stop at nothing than everything. This is the aim. And so we will not be able to appease them by giving away chunk of land, even though the Israeli public is very willing to give away values for a valuable piece of land in order to get some peace and quiet and prosperity. And this is what we're aiming to. And I think that we prove it by pulling out of Gaza, pulling out of Sinai, and, willing to discuss the real peace. But basically, the situation of peace, at least if we look on the area around us, is not a common phenomena. It's the culture of war. This is the constant, and they don't need Israel for that. They keep fighting each other in Iraq and Iran and Syria and Lebanon and other places as well. So it's not, even when there is no land dispute on the table.
Of course. I mean, if the Palestinians were motivated by something positive, then of course not. This would all be over very quick. But to exist is to resist. Isn't that the Palestinian sort of motto? To exist is to resist. It's all about being anti-Israel. You need something positive. If they wanted to live, they would have no greater partner and friend than the state of Israel, and maybe they would even merge together. But I wanted to ask about this idea of Israel expanding their borders. That's something people bring up to say that, look, Israel ultimately are initiating things, whereas the Palestinians might be building, but for Israel repeatedly taking their homes and trees and states away.
Well, right now it's the other way around, which means Palestinians are trying to spread to everywhere they want. The Israeli settlements there is some Israeli settlements, and most of them, according to my knowledge, are on private land or land that been acquired. And we know some few court case that ask to take off certain settlements when there was some land dispute that wasn't clear enough. And I hope that the property right issue will take over, and this will be the rule on which we will determine who can sit where, and not according to some nationalistic whim or wish to erase the other nationalist whim from the other side.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely, see Israel as the victim here. I think retaliatory force is required. And Boaz, when I saw that video of Tel Aviv lit up by rockets, I was there just 2 years ago at a presentation that you put on for objectivists, the Israeli objectivist community. My heart just sank to see that violence visited on such a magical city and such an inclusive city. I mean, people of every different race, gay, everything, party and have fun in Tel Aviv, enjoy it. And to see that city visited by aggression and missiles just made my heart sink. So all of us here at the Ayn Rand Center UK, we're thinking of you, thinking of Israel, and please stay safe.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Now, one of the super chats we read before, while you were away over there with your internet cutting out, Boaz, was somebody saying that Trump was good for Israel and for peace. Would you be able to show us that chart again? I'm curious. I didn't catch what the missile. I'm not.
And do you agree with that? Do you think Trump was good for peace in Israel?
Well, Trump kept, in a way, most of the radical at bay, in a way, because he was conceived as the crazy guy who will do crazy thing if they will piss him off. So I don't sure that this is good for American in regards to policy, but at least in the Middle East, this was respected. And you could see that some of the peace accord that followed the Trump time at the White House, as I see it, it's part of the results of the work that Netanyahu and Trump could put together and let Arab countries understand that they better choose in this way and not the other. Now there is a different government, a different administration, and I think that many of the players in the Middle East and other rough players, possibly North Korea and others, will find it more lucrative to be rough players and to and to send all kind of threat in order to get compensation and appeasement and so on. So at least in this perspective, it was good to Israel to have a strong ally that doesn't feel ashamed to pronounce his alliance with Israel.
I came across a clip of Trump at one of his rallies a couple years ago. I happened to come across it yesterday, and Trump is ranting about how the movie Parasite won Best Picture at the Oscars that year. And he's got a crowd of people cheering on everything he says. And Trump goes, "What is this? A Korean movie wins? What? We don't have enough problems with Korea with trade. Now they're also getting best movie. What is this?" And I'm thinking to myself, we could very well in the future have a president or a candidate for president standing with a large crowd that loves everything he says. And the candidate or the president is saying, "What's with Israel bombing Gaza? All they're doing is throwing rocks and Israel is demolishing them. What is it? What's wrong with these people?" And people cheering it on. And you can tell them, no, they're firing rockets. These people are crazy. Israel needs to do something. And Israel is not doing enough. And they just wouldn't listen, or they say, "Hi, I trolled you." And all this ugliness we've seen out of the Trump influence on Americans.
Well,
so I say, be careful of the friends you accept, Israel or anyone else. Crazy, irrational people do not make good long-term friends.
Well, I think that if you go over the headlines of the New York Times and some of the other leading publications in the United States, you may find already that this tone of rallies is there.
Absolutely, it is. I'm just worried when the next Republican populist is the one saying it, and former pro-Israel people are cheering that on. People then will realize irrational people are not good long-term friends. You gotta. Reason needs to be your absolute. Jonathan?
Yeah, I just want to jump in. I know we're running a little bit out of time, and Boaz, we want to take up too much of your afternoon, but we also want to recommend Alon Journo's books about the Middle East situation. And if nothing else, go back and watch Rand answer famous questions about Donahue and her perspective on the situation in the Middle East. I mean, Boaz, it's got to be a little bit depressing. You feel like nothing's changed decade upon decade, but you're doing a lot of that changing with the Ayn Rand Center Israel and all the work you're doing to promote objectivism in Israel. So, Godspeed, we say that in quotes around here, but we're wishing you the best and continue health and with all that you're doing.
Thank you very much, guys. Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Get back to safety or get back to that shelter or wherever you're supposed to be right now. And for God's sake, get Ayn Rand's books to some people fast. Well, you guys need it, but we need it as well. Yeah. Coming up at 7 p.m. UK time, 2 Eastern, Don Watkins and James Valiant will be discussing Ayn Rand's essay titled "The Goal of My Writing," classic essay, and going to be a great discussion. Today is Wednesday. Don't we have a Clubhouse show to look forward to?
Yeah.
I think Nikos and Maria are going to be talking about love on the show Flirting with Reason. I don't know what the topic is. Polyamory, which is like polygamy. Poly means multiple. Polyamory, arrangements, let's just say. It's going to be an interesting discussion. I'm looking forward to that. Meet us there at Clubhouse coming up at, 1 p.m. Pacific time? Anyway, that's all coming up. We'll see you there. And we're jumping to Clubhouse right now as soon as we're done here. And just by the way, someone in the chat room mentioned that I think he's upset if Nikos is coming off as not pro-Israel, then the viewer expressed some upsetness at that. I just want to say, Nikos is very honest about when he's not sure about something, when he doesn't agree or understand with something, he's very honest, and that helps the rest of us be honest as well and not overstate what we understand and what we know. And if Nikos is thinking about something and thinking out loud and not sure where he stands, I'm glad he's doing that. So, and also Razi and I talking about Nikos is bound to present Nikos in a certain way that makes him look like a lunatic QAnon Trump fan, which is not the case. So keep that in mind as well. Razi and I were very tongue in cheek, the way we sort of exaggerate sometimes. Anyway, jumping over to Clubhouse now and meet us back here at the bottom of the hour, right here on the Ayn Rand Center UK YouTube channel for a great discussion. And of course, we'll be back here tomorrow for the Daily Objective, same time. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you all.
See you soon.
And goodbye.